Hello and welcome to the DC United Kingdom podcast. This is episode 3 of season 2, and I have two guests who are again making their debut like last week. I have James Lambert and Jon Lee. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Glad to be here.
Great.
Yeah,
Good to be here.
Great. So obviously I've got these guys on for a particular reason. But first, we're just going to hear a few words from our sponsors, the MLS UK show, and then we'll get speaking to our lovely guests. So, MLS UK show, take it away.
Hey DC squad, this is Elliot Holman.
And I'm Henry Hewitt.
From the MLS UK show. Have you ever wondered what the number one football podcast is in Egypt?
Well, it's surely about, Liverpool with Mo Salah, right?
Incorrect. It's the MLS UK show.
We don't know how that has happened.
How has that happened? I have no idea.
So, if you're not living in Egypt and you want to catch the MLS UK show, Elliot, why should they listen?
Well, our season preview for 2020 is about to drop, or may have already dropped, depending on when you listen to this. In that episode, we preview, we make predictions. How good were our predictions last year, by the way?
Not very good.
No, they were terrible. We take a look at the latest news coming out of MLS ahead of the new season.
And my fiancée Poppy does annual kit reviews. What does she think of DC's kit? You know, the black with the red sleeve?
We're on YouTube, of course, as well. So give us a search on YouTube, or if you want to listen on your commute or at your convenience, search your podcast provider for MLS UK show.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Thanks, Elliot and Henry. So, first up, James. I wanted to get you on because you are obviously the main guy for Screaming Eagles. And I wanted to get you to give you a kind of an overview about what you guys are about for those listeners out there who are casual DC fans that might not be from America, because I have listeners from all over the world. So, James, would you be all right just giving an overview about Screaming Eagles and maybe a little history about them?
Sure. So Screaming Eagles were one of the supporters clubs for DC United. We actually go back to 1995 and predate the actual naming of DC United. So some of the discussion about the naming of the club happened on the Screaming Eagles listserv back in 1995 when our founder Matt Mathai had set that up. So this is our 25th anniversary as well as the league's, which is pretty cool. And our mission is really writ large, growing soccer in the DC area and supporting DC United. So we do all the things you typically expect of a supporters group. And have, match day activities. We throw a big tailgate before the matches, try to, do all the demonstrations in the stands, bring the noise, bring the atmosphere, bring the passion to the club. But we have is probably as large of a presence outside of match day as well. So we work on supporting our kind of brother and sister clubs in the area and what they're doing, the Spirit Squadron, Loudon Stampede. We work very closely with our main community partner, DC Scores, who's also the community partner of the team. For those of you abroad, they do they run a after-school soccer program and poetry classes for thousands of kids in the District of Columbia. Really cool program. We do a lot to raise money for them and provide volunteers and generally, support all their activities, across the board. I also like to, in a lot of ways, see the Screaming Eagles and the Supporters Club concept as we're the union. We're the union for the fans. And it's about collective action and the ability to express our opinions and have them heard by the front office of DC United, the team, the ownership. We can act a little bit as like their conscience in some ways. We can act a little bit as like a focus group on some of the main topics. And then sometimes, we need to take that additional step of, speaking out on issues that are of collective importance when maybe we can't get things done behind the scenes. And finally, I think, what's one of the great things that's really, blooming, I guess, these days, going into spring is turning supporter ideas into reality. So a lot of what we exist to do is, get you guys, the people listening out here, the supporters that have ideas, have initiatives, and have that energy to make them reality. And we want to support that. We want to support that with the funds we have. We want to support that with our connections with the team, our connections with other parts of the soccer community in Washington and make those things a reality. And, John and what him and Sam and Joshua have going with the Tried and True podcast is actually a great example of, that process and taking something from an idea and getting it to the reality stage.
Yeah. So that was nicely led into John. So obviously James has just mentioned the Tried and True podcast. Take it away. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So, like all good ideas, this one came after a few libations. We got together kind of talking about, what's sort of missing, right now from the DC United media landscape. And of course, over here in the States, we've been dealing with the drama of the TV deal for quite some time, and seemingly the last few seasons as well. Obviously, that news has come out, which is exciting. But in many ways, we still don't have a radio partner. And we haven't for as long as I've been a fan anyway. And so after the games, particularly home games, what do? We all kind of hang around and talk about the game. And we thought, what better way to kind of engage a broader portion of the fan base than by, kind of doing that live and doing that as a post-game show. And it's something, we originally talked to James Lambert and some of the folks about, hey, is this something we could do at the ECC at the Screaming Eagles tailgate location? Or is this something that we could do at a bar partner? Or is it something that we just kind of record at our house? And then one thing led to another, and conversations were had with the team, and the team, really liked the concept as well. And it's actually something that we're planning to do live from Audi Field for all the home games this year. We're still working a little bit on logistics as far as where in the stadium that's going to be, and when we can announce those details here in the coming months. I can tell you that this weekend it will be live in the Heineken Club. That's going to be unfortunately restricted to just the field level members to get in there after the game for the first couple shows of the season, I think. But hopefully later on this season, we're going to be in a more public place there, where all the fans post game can come and hear our show and be a part of what we're doing. We're on Twitter, on Instagram right now at Tried and True DCU. So I got to plug us a little bit there. But after the game, that's a great way to get involved. We'll be broadcasting live on YouTube Live, and so we'll of course be monitoring the chat there and monitoring Twitter for fan input and questions. And we're still working to finalize our guest for this weekend, but some of our goals this season kind of include getting players or former players or parts of the team to kind of join us after the game. So what I would say is we'll be putting out the link here in the next day or so for this Saturday's broadcast, but it'll be approximately a half hour after the final whistle is when we plan to go live.
That is absolutely awesome. And you literally answered a couple of questions I already had in my head, which is going to be, is it going to be live on YouTube? So that's great to see. Obviously, it's going to be video. Is there going to be an audio recording to go out afterwards as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And so actually out of the gate, it doesn't look like we're going to have cameras initially. We're still working through kind of the logistics of that. So it'll be audio with just our cool graphic up in the background on YouTube for the first couple weeks. But yeah, we plan to record the whole show, and then as soon as we're done, we'll just basically push it right out to all the major podcatchers. We're already up on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, a couple others. So we're out there with our episode 0, which we recorded last week, just kind of a season preview to get something out there, and then we'll have our first proper content this Saturday.
And I did actually listen into your episode 0, and it was really good. So well done on that. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So we're obviously all here to talk about DC United. Let's go through some news. So the first thing on the agenda is Gressel has signed that long-term deal. Obviously, he had, when he was traded, he only had till the end of the season. Signed a new long-term contract. I think it's 3 years with the option of the 4th. How do we feel about that?
I mean, I'm in a place with Gressel that I think if you get a player that has proven production like he's had, you just run with that. If you would look at bringing in a player, where there's significantly more risk from abroad and what you'd have to pay them in transfer fee and salary to get the numbers he's put up over the last 2 years, it's going to be double that in many cases. I think this is a move like, Nagby to Atlanta a couple years ago, or Ozzie Alonso and Opara to Minnesota. you're taking proven performers, you're putting them into a team, and Gressel's only 26, so you're going to get the full length of the deal when he's in his prime. So, I mean, I love the move. I'm still not sure why Atlanta wouldn't give him the money, but better for us.
Yeah, it's a huge get. I mean, and you can't highlight enough the proven talent, especially at an affordable cost moving within the league. Like James said, it's super exciting. And unfortunately, I think we kind of know what one of the roles he's going to have to fill with the Paul Arriola news, which I'm sure we'll get to. But he's certainly going to be a major part to this team this year.
Yeah, it's just one of the big stats for me is the fact that he's given the most assists since he's joined the league out of anyone. So as long as he continues doing that, I don't care where he plays on the pitch, as long as he just keeps doing it.
Exactly.
Obviously, as you just mentioned there, John, Arriola's injury, season ending. What do we do since he's now injured? Obviously, Gressel, it was likely he was going to be playing right back. I think he'd be playing further forward now. Knaus is probably going to end up being at right back like he did at the end of last season. Would that be a good move for us?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll take a stab at it first. I think that, yeah, unfortunately, Knaus is probably locked into left back, at least for now, until Fisher's healthy. I can't imagine that that's something Russ is super excited about based on kind of his previous thoughts on playing back there. But this does seem to be a pretty strong locker room, and so it feels like he'll do what we need to do for the time being. But yeah, I don't think it's possible to overstate the loss of Arriola. I mean, I joked a little bit about it on our show. It's a good thing we recorded before that news broke, because I was absolutely gutted to hear that. I mean, Paul's a huge part of this team. He does so many of the little things that, sometimes it's hard to quantify. And he's just such a good guy, too. So you hate to see it happen to him. What we saw in the preseason game over the weekend that we were actually able to see, which was cool, was that Flores actually played most of the time, I think, at right mid, and Gressel was at the 10. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the move going forward, or if things change.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably see a lot more interchange this year. I think with Paul, that was the plan, because he can play centrally as well. My worry is kind of lack of speed to get in behind. When we were missing Paul over the last 2 years, teams could really compress the field against us, because Wayne wasn't any threat to get in behind, and we didn't have the speed at other positions. Paul was the only one there to do that. Now this year, I think we're in a better situation with Ola up top and Flores and some more flexibility. But on the other wing, I think going into the first week, there's going to be that battle about, do you start Segura or Assad? One thing we saw in the Philadelphia scrimmage was that Segura does have the speed to get in behind. Now he's limited in many other ways, whereas Assad brings a lot more creativity and probably a lot more history of production, but he's slow. And so, how do we fit the pieces together so we're not, making ourselves easy to play against, which unfortunately without Arriola the last couple of years, we've been very easy to play against. Yeah.
And you touched on about the fact that we were able to watch the Philadelphia game. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to. No matter what VPN I was using, it still wouldn't work, which was so annoying. But how was it? Obviously, I can't say anything about the matter on that game. How did it look from your guys' end?
I mean, scrimmages, right? Take it with a grain of salt. I mean, it looked good. I thought they looked good. They played a heck of a lot faster, it seemed, than they did last year at any point. There was a lot more attempts of, Briant and Birnbaum to really break the first line, break lines with their passing, get balls into the attack. A lot was generated by those kind of quick direct balls, and then the ball being, either touched or headed over, and Segura, running in behind and exploiting that space. I do wonder, because in the preseason, teams tend to work on their own stuff, not countering the other team's stuff. And Philadelphia is transitioning into being a pressing team this year, and more aligned with Ernst Tanner's view of that club. And there's always going to be some growing pains. And, I'm not sure if you were banking up a game plan for a competitive game, you would have, pressed as much in the way that they were trying to ineffectively at times, and we really started kind of easily breaking through that. That's never kind of been the conventional easy way to play against Olsen's teams. So we'll see when it gets to real matches.
And from you, John, there, did you manage to get in to watch the game, and are you thinking similar to James there?
Yeah, mostly similar. I mean, it's always tough to put anything, behind a preseason game, like James said, but they looked good. It was exciting to see, and especially against a team that's given us fits for the past few years. I don't know. It was close to a starting 11 from the Union. I'm sure it'll be a different intensity level when we see them again in a few weeks, but they looked good, and if they can keep it up and continue to keep opponents on their toes with some of the positional changes within the starting 11, but also some of the substitutions that they had. Saad came in later on. It'll be interesting to see how fit he is for a full 90 run in and when that happens. But cautiously optimistic. I think I'd be feeling a lot better if Paul was still available. But it was a good final run out, at least from what I saw.
Good. News that came out yesterday or today, I can't remember what day it was, because days are just blurring into one right now for me. Mohamed Abu, potential signing. News came out of Norway about this one. Obviously, previous MLS experience. Thoughts on this? I'm a bit meh about it. I'm not too 100% sure whether we need another midfielder. I know Ariola's been out injured, and we've got to put some square pegs into round holes, but do we need another square peg?
I mean, I wonder if they're actually bringing him in to maybe be a backup at left back. I believe he's left-footed.
Okay.
And I agree with you, right? He played a defensive midfield in Columbus and Valerenga, and it just doesn't seem with Felipe and Canals and Moreno that we need another. That's not the position of need right now. But I do wonder if that's maybe what they're looking where they're looking to stick him.
That would be interesting. John?
At this point, I'm keenly interested in depth all across the field. Midfield now is an area where it's more important than it was, but I'm if this is something that can help plug some of the holes or at least the holes in the depth chart in the back line, I'm all for it. I'm keenly interested in the club bringing in additional attacking options and additional depth in the back line, because it does seem like we're an injury away in many positions from really being in a pinch.
Yeah, especially at the back. The fact that we've only got just the three centre-backs with Briant, Birnbaum and Donovan Pines, for me, we need desperately need someone else there, and we need probably another left-back. So if Abu can fill that space, fine. Backline depth we definitely need.
At center back right now, Pines is still hurt too. So
he is, isn't he? Yeah, he's injured. Forgot about that. So we've got.
And I think the club is actually. I think they've been making attempts to pull in other defenders. I think there's been at least two they've been after that they've kind of struck out on. So I don't think it's not a situation where it's unknown. Maybe a little bit different when we talk about homegrowns on the wing about what their approach is, but I think they were strongly looking for reinforcements on the back line.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen a couple of trialists over the last week or so. I'm sure I've just seen one from where we got from Houston Dynamo, I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
Kevin Garcia started his trial today.
So that'll be interesting to see if he comes through on that. Other things, as we mentioned earlier on, the TV deal finally done and dusted. So we've got shows going out, which is obviously better than what we had with Flow Sports last season. Yeah,
this is something that came up over the weekend at the Screaming Eagles general meeting. And Andy Bush was there and kind of fielded some questions on that. And it was at least from where I sit, it's very clear that the team heard the feedback loud and clear last year of, this Flow deal is not getting it done. They didn't hold up some of the promises on their end. Fans were upset. It is a bit frustrating just to kind of see it doesn't look like the team had very many good options to choose from. While we are going to have all the games on TV this year, which is awesome. DirecTV, which is the main provider for most bars in the DC area or in most areas, actually doesn't get the channel in HD, which is a challenge. So when you go to a pub to watch the match, it's not the best experience. But one of the things that we talked to Andy Bush about over the weekend was, are there going to be streaming options for cord cutters like James and myself, and how could we potentially watch the games or have a better viewing experience at bars? And it sounds like the team is working on a streaming deal just on their own website within probably the DC viewing area. But that would at least answer the mail for a lot of us who cut the cord and actually don't have access to WJLA 24/7 news. So that would be huge. Also, kind of in the vein of listening to supporter feedback, I think that would really put a lot of us at ease.
So just to go back a couple of steps there, no HD in bars.
Yeah, you heard that correctly. It's something that I've been prodding a lot on Twitter about, and this was a challenge, because this Sinclair deal was the deal we had prior to Flow Sports, and it was a challenge then as well. I think over time the team kind of changed some of the graphics package that they use so that it's easier to kind of see in those situations. But I mean, when the deal first started, when they left NBC Sports Washington a few years ago, you couldn't actually read half of the scoring book because of this, the way it was like cropped and fit the screens. So some of those challenges remain, but like I said, I truly don't believe the team had a better choice. I think the goal was to get all of the games on TV in the local area, and they've succeeded in that. And so this is something we'll work through.
Yeah, and hopefully they will have. They have said that whatever this potential streaming option through their website will have HD. So hopefully that will be a bar solution. And I think that John hit the three things we were always emphasizing to the club is you need HD, you need it to be able to be shown easily in bars, and you need to have a stream solution for cord cutters. I don't know how it works abroad. Maybe they'll even make the stream available outside the United States. That would be particularly ideal for you.
I am praying for that.
I think the only piece of sort of sad news we got was Devin McTavish was there on Sunday as well, and we asked him if he'd be traveling to all the away matches with Dave Johnson. He said, unfortunately, they'll be in the studio for most of them, which is, one at least it's the smallest of the disappointments over the things we perhaps could have seen in the TV deal.
He did sort of leave the door open there to the supporters of keep letting the team know that that's a priority to you.
Well, I think we should just give him and Dave like spaces on the bus to Philly and to New Jersey and NYCFC. Like, why not? I mean, it doesn't really, and then we'll get him there. Yeah,
no, it's definitely something that I know both those guys are interested in doing. So hopefully throughout the year as we play big away matches, the team will find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, I genuinely don't understand why they're not always there. Surely it can't cost that much to get them there. I mean, you've offered them a lift.
Yeah, unfortunately, can't give them the lift to Vancouver or LA or any of those places. But the downsides of having a large country.
Yes, yeah, thankfully we don't have that issue over here. Other bits of news that came out today: Derby County potentially playing DC United in a friendly later on in the October time.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah, I wonder why that's come about. I mean, I wonder who plays at Derby County now.
I do find the timing a bit peculiar on that, though. As I was reading October timeframe, which like kind of right in the middle of the English club season. I'm sure it's during a FIFA window or something. But
I think it's a FIFA. Yeah. It's a FIFA window. Yes.
To travel across the pond is kind of interesting.
I'm just most interested to see if Wayne will be sober or hungover or still drunk during friendly like that. I mean, we could probably tell, but
he'll probably fly through BWI and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, Wayne, what a bit of a legend. Mind you, he's got a heck of a Penanka the other night. From the dates, it seems that been thrown around for this friendly game. Literally from what I've seen, October 7th was the first date that I saw. That's 3 days after our last game of the regular season.
And it's as far as Audi Field, it's 3 days before. I think the Spirit are going to play on October 10th. They just announced today.
Oh.
So you also have the issue of field wear going into the playoffs. So
yeah,
it's
going to be an interesting end to the season. Let's put it that way. I've got them written down, but something else I want to talk about is the Leagues Cup. Those dates recently got announced as well. Looking at it, it's right in the midst of some pretty mental runs that we've got. So we're going to be playing 3 games in a week and things like that. First, what do we think of the Leagues Cup? Do we like this tournament? I've likened it to the Europa League to the Champions League, considering what teams are in Leagues Cups. What do we think of it?
I mean, I just don't see how, in our particular situation, can you see any way that Olsen would actually play any starters at all in that stretch? I'm like, honestly, like
No.
he has never shown any interest in, playing for these, say, the secondary competitions. And, this one, especially with, very little at the end. I mean, and I don't know how I'm supposed to get excited about it, even as a fan of the wider league, if there's no real incentive for most MLS clubs to commit bodies to it in the midst of summer.
Yeah, I mean, it's likely going to be Loudoun United versus like Monterey. I mean, what?
Yeah.
It's going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
Of course, I'll walk down the street and go, but it's going to be tough to get jazzed up for that. I mean, I'm with you, James. I don't see Olsen putting out a big team, and I mean, sure, it's a trophy, but I think that the goal is to make it kind of comparable to the Europa League, but I don't think we're there yet in terms of MLS teams caring that much about the competition until the later rounds.
Well, and you're also going to have the top Liga MX teams in this competition and only the middling MLS squads. So you're also going to still be dealing with some big money clubs that have a much, much better 11 through 18 than MLS clubs are just frankly allowed to have by league rules. So, I mean, MLS claims, again, we want to compete in the continental arena, but yet they continue to hold themselves back on the spending with league rules, and lack of interest in things like this is always going to be the outcome.
Yeah. What more can you say about it? Apart from imagine if Loudoun United beat Monterey.
I mean, that would be pretty special.
Who was the poor right back last year that just kept getting roasted against Marseille? If anyone saw the Marseille match.
Yeah, I don't even think he had a name on the back of his jersey.
They pulled him. They brought him in, and they pulled him 20 minutes later. They brought him on. It was man, felt terrible for the kid.
It was probably a trialist again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did land one of those sick Loudoun jerseys with the DC flag on it for Christmas.
Oh, I definitely grabbed one of those too. The culture kits.
They looked absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Why haven't they used that as their proper kit? That would have been.
I mean, it would certainly be better than the DC United away kit right now, which is the blank white T-shirt.
Oh, right.
Yeah. We'll gloss over that one. Actually, what do we think of this year's jersey? I'm a big fan of it because it reminds me of the old Rangers early '90s kit. So I'm all for it. When you first saw the stripes over the shoulder, it was a bit unusual, but I'm digging it.
I would say I like the jersey and I love the full kit. I think with the red shorts, it really is the best we've had going in a while. The thick red band around the sleeve plus the red shorts, I think, it emphasizes actually black and red, not black and white. and that in itself is a huge improvement. And as far as the stripes, there's not much you can do about templates. That's what every apparel company demands these days.
Yeah.
That we all have something in common. But, all in all, I actually think across the league, the jerseys were pretty nice.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it too. It's going to be a true exercise in self-control to see if I can hold off on buying one until the prices drop, because I did look the day of, and man, Adidas is just fleecing us on jersey costs.
Yeah, but maybe John, maybe you can win enough on prop bets in the early matches at Audi Field.
There we go.
You can pay for the jersey through your gambling winnings.
That's not bad.
As we say over here in the UK, please gamble responsibly.
That's right.
Yeah, the prices are. I think is it $135 for the actual proper jersey?
I think it's $135 or $140 for the authentic, but that's without customization. So if you want to put a player on it, you gotta cough up some more.
Yeah, those numbers are pretty sweet too. So
They are.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue. My wife bought me one last year when I came over, so for my
All
birthday.
right.
Fingers crossed. If you're listening, Fliss, you know what to get me for my birthday now. Just a trip to DC to buy one. That'll do. Season preview time. I mean, we've obviously briefly spoken about the roster. Obviously, a little bit thin. But how far can we go this year, realistically speaking? Obviously, the last couple of years we've fallen at the first hurdle at the playoffs. Can we go further this year?
I mean, realistically, I hate to say this, but have we ever, under this current kind of coaching, and GM combo, we've never advanced really, deep in the playoffs. And that hasn't always been because we haven't had any talent either. I'm not saying we can't. I think actually the team could be fairly successful in the regular season, but when it comes to knockouts, I have a hard time believing until I see it happen at least once.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it would be both shocking and extremely disappointing if this team didn't make the playoffs. I mean, even with the Ariel injury, I think they've got enough to get to the playoffs. But James is right. I mean, it's every year I kind of trick myself in that, hey, you get in and it's now it's a single game competition, especially with the new format, right? All you got to do is get on a hot streak and go. But we've not been able to do that, and especially you pay the price a little bit more now if you don't have as good of a regular season with having to go on the road for a one-leg elimination game. I mean, it's hard. There's no way around it, and without more depth or just literally no one else getting injured all year, which would be great, it's going to be a challenge. I think a lot is going to be determined by how well the new players gel together and what we're able to do in the summer transfer window based on where we sit at the table. But I think getting into the playoffs, knock on wood, shouldn't be too big of a challenge for this roster. But yeah, it's taking it to that next level on how you make that happen. That seems to be the challenge.
And hopefully, one positive will be the chemistry being better. I mean, I don't think we can overestimate how poisonous Lucho was last year, both on and especially off the field for that squad. And then what went on with Rooney in the second half of the season, there was just no collective. It had fallen apart. I mean, you had your two most important players partially and fully tuned out, and things got ugly. And on its surface, the players that have been brought in are more of, quote, Ben's guys that have a high work rate no matter what else they bring to the table. And that has been important over the years because, pure skill guys have not always meshed well with the coaching staff, and it sometimes had ugly results.
You're not going to name any names there, James?
I mean, we could go back. I mean, I think Marcus Holstein and Branko Boskovic and Lucho, guys who aren't covering the ground always, but bring other things, have not always had a permanent place at this club, which has been unfortunate.
There was a period of time where Marcus Holstein was a feature in my FIFA roster with DC United because he was the highest ranked player by far on the team. I don't remember what version of the game that was, but
no, it's I mean, in terms of the playoffs, is it down to a lack of tactical nous? The fact that now it's the single knockout games, and obviously we saw against Toronto how we kind of imploded in extra time. Is it just the fact that Ben's tactical knowledge isn't quite up to scratch for playoff matches? Maybe from the last couple of seasons that I've seen, I think that might be it.
That's where I am. I think in 2018, Greg Berhalter just took his lunch money, and he never figured out what was going on, and then I think in 2019, the whole league took from that blueprint and figured out how to break that connection between Lucho and Wayne and really overplay the passing lanes and leave space behind. And we just never figured it out. I mean, last year, I don't know. That didn't surprise me. We were away and at a talent deficit. I was surprised we got it as far into the match as we did. But yes, I just never. Olsen's great strengths are he's a really wonderful human being, and he's a very good man manager that doesn't tend to lose the locker room. Players tend to believe in him and fight for him. But he was never given the chance to develop as a tactical mind. He was kind of thrown in before his time, and that limitation overall on the coaching staff, and outside of maybe Nolan Sheldon, it's just been readily apparent.
Yeah, I also think some of the roster challenges that he's had to deal with have contributed to some of the tactical challenges as well. As like the 2018 season being a good point of hey, we weren't good enough tactically. We played the same style most of the year, and you're right. By the time the playoffs rolled around, Berhalter took total advantage of it. And I mean, granted, the game did go into PKs, so it was not a total wash. But I think last season in particular, going into that Toronto game, I don't know that anybody felt good about it. And somehow we managed to get to extra time, holding them to one goal. But the changes that were required late in that match in order to allow that to happen did not set us up for success in extra time at all. And obviously, we all know the wheels came off real quick.
Yeah, indeed. So we're all in agreement that playoffs is a must, and we reckon we can do that. It's just how far we can go in the playoffs we're not so sure about.
Yeah, whether we can get a home match. I mean, the Eastern Conference is wide open this year. I mean, other than NYCFC, who looks to, they brought most of their players back and look to be very good again. There's a question about how good Atlanta is going to be, in the long term. There's a question about how far the Red Bulls have fallen off. Columbus should be coming up, but how far? And there's a lot of room to move. I mean, almost between positions, 3 and 12, are up for grabs in a lot of ways in the Eastern Conference. So, it's what we can make of it and hopefully stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm going to be surprised if NYCFC do really well this year, though. What with where all their changes in the stadiums that they're playing at, obviously they're going to be playing at the Red Bull Arena, which is quite comical, to say the least.
It's absolutely glorious.
I mean, how has that happened? Genuinely, what was going through the front office's mind to allow that? I mean, yeah. But also they've got, I think, 4 games at City Field booked in this year, which when you saw them against Toronto at City Field last year, it just didn't work. So when they're at City Field, I don't think they're going to do great. And it's just, for form-wise, that's going to really make things very tricky for them. So I'd be surprised if they're at the top end of the Eastern Conference. Other things we've got to look forward to this season. Safe standing. How awesome is that?
Very awesome. Shows real commitment from the team towards the supporters, being willing to spend that amount of money and get that done. Only 2 years after the stadium, or a year and a half after the stadium opens. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it looks great. It we got to see it briefly at the kind of welcome back Audi Field event the team had a couple weeks ago. So looks great. Super excited to break it in on Saturday. And going into this season is the best I've felt in a long time about, the team being just real in touch with supporters and in touch with fans and where our concerns are. And, you don't have to look too far in the league or in our city for teams that don't follow that model. Right. And it's a good place. I think it really, it's a cool vibe going into the season.
Yeah. I would love to be over there and actually experience it myself. So, hopefully at some point I'll get to see the safe stand and I'll get to see you guys again. Just a little plug for your merchandise though, James, for Screaming Eagles. Nice,
yeah.
beer-friendly hoodies.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a standing section, so you got to have a place to put your beer, right? So for at least the first, we start in February. You can stick your beverage of choice, drinking or not, in your pocket hoodie, and then hopefully we may come up with some koozies you wear around your neck for the summertime when you don't want to be wearing the sweatshirt but still need to be able to protect your drink, at least until goals. But yeah, safe standing. It's just it emphasizes what the section's actually for. It's for standing and being involved. That underlines that. One positive of the XFL is we even got a rigging system that showed up in front of the section because they need it for their kicking net, but it will stay in position. So
Ooh.
that's kind of a challenge just kind of leveled at all the supporters collectively to make good use of that.
Very interesting. Speaking of beers, obviously you got your first tailgate this weekend. What beers are going to be at the tailgate?
Oh,
speaking my language.
I know. John only sometimes does some of the pickup. I mean, we have our standard Heineken lineup. We should work with Heineken again this year. They've asked for us to work Red Stripe into the mix.
Ooh.
One of the challenges for me this week when I was putting things together is actually not beer, but like last year I started a couple matches to buy White Claw, and it was insane. I mean, people drank White Claw before absolutely everything. And so I'm wondering now, going into 2020, was it just a 2019 summer fad that will quickly go away? Or is this something that's got staying power? And I'm 40, so there's no way I could possibly like be in touch with that.
What is White Claw? Because I have no idea.
What is White Claw? Oh, White Claw is it's like a spiked seltzer. So it tastes like a seltzer that just is alcoholic.
Oh, right.
I was going to ask
that there
you,
ain't no laws when you're drinking the claws.
Exactly. I was going to ask you, is that true in Britain too? That there ain't no laws while you're drinking claws?
I'm happy to go with that law.
Okay.
Let's go with it. But it sounds like you're going to have a bit of a good time this weekend, because I think you guys have got RFK refugees doing a live show there as well, haven't you? They
are. And we do season kickoff from there. It's kind of going to be worlds colliding. John, are you going to do that show, or is one of your?
Sam's going to do that show.
That show.
One of our co-hosts, Sam Casper, will be on the RFK Refugees show live on Saturday. So definitely talking a bit of season preview. Those guys talking a little bit more about our show. We're super excited.
Yeah. So for those of you, if you've never listened to RFK Refugees, they are obviously available on all podcast platforms, but they do live shows over on Twitter and on YouTube. So get yourselves following them. Questions that I've had sent in. Unfortunately, there hasn't been too many. And I've had to plug myself in there on one of them as well. And I've just thought of yet one more question, which I had on the last show, and I want to ask you guys. So I'll ask that one to start off with, seeing as I'm thinking of it. A question that came to us last week was about moving away from RFK to Audi Field. Obviously, RFK is getting demolished, unfortunately. Never going to get used again. But if there's one thing you could take from RFK to bring over to Audi Field, what would that be?
This one's easy for me. I'd make all of the stands bounce.
Yeah, good, strong answer. I agree there. I'll second that. The bouncing stands, the insurance nightmare, but truly unique to that place.
There was just nothing like it. I'm not from the DC area, so I didn't grow up, going to Redskins games and things like that. So I didn't really know it was a thing. And I kind of found it the first DC United game I wandered into in 2015, and truly thought the stadium might be going down. And it was just such a fun time. Anytime you'd bring someone new to a game, just to see their face, and it would be, even before kickoff, you'd feel it. And then, of course, when a big goal would happen, it was like a trampoline. It just, I miss it.
Yeah.
So how would the stands have collapsed if Wayne Rooney was playing at RFK and he scored that goal from his own half?
Maybe. Although, I saw that thing stand up to sell out crowds. So, whoever did the construction on it originally back in 1960, it's pretty impressive. It bounced, it moved, it swayed, but it never seemed to fall apart.
Yeah, if there was a moment where I think it might have gone, it was probably more the buzzard beater when Rooney hit the long ball to Lucho to head in against Orlando. I think if anything would have broken it, might have been that.
Oh, that was such a great goal. Such a great goal. Another question that a question that we had sent in was, obviously we've had our preseason matches. David Sheehan has just sent in 6 preseason games. Not once did we have our likely opening day starting 11 on the field. South and Flores swapped at halftime as they recovered from injury. Is it common to start the season with 11 on the field who've never played in a game together, assuming Assad and Flores both start? It's friendly, so they're going to be mix and match for me. It's this is when you try to find your best formation, your best 11. So potentially, it's never going to be the 11 that starts the season. So yeah, that's for me. That's quite normal.
And I think it's especially normal in MLS playing the spring, summer, fall season, that you're coming out of a shorter January transfer window. You're trying to integrate people quickly. You have injury problems. You have visa problems. I mean, Mateus Rossetto, the new guy that Atlanta's trying to bring in their midfield from Atletico Paranaense in Brazil, he's out of the CCL matches because they can't get his visa worked out. And that's always the case in kind of the short window before the MLS season. It's hard to get your 11 on the same page. So is it ideal? No, but we're not playing CCL, so at least have a couple matches to work it out.
Yeah, situation normal for me. I totally agree. It's always chaotic at the beginning of the season. It feels like most of the conversations I have about DC United from December through March are all about, are we please going to sign a few more players? We mentioned that already today. And so, yeah, I think it is pretty common to not have the best 11 out there on day one.
Yeah. Another question from me to you guys is, and I've seen this over on Reddit on the DC United page, which of the new homegrown talents do you think will have the biggest impact this year?
I mean, I would go with Griffin Yao, and that's a combination of two things. One is I think he plays the biggest position of need, meaning with Ariola's injury, I think we'll see more time on the wing for people to, integrate themselves and play in certain matches and have substitute appearances. One. And two, I think that he has more experience with the first team, and we all know that matters quite a bit to Ben. He's not as likely to throw somebody in inexperienced. I think that contrasts by maybe with who the team is most excited about long term. We had Dave Sanford, the academy head, on actually at our annual meeting on Sunday, and he had said that Moses Naaman, he's super excited about long term. He's the youngest of them, but he plays more of a 6-8 role. A lot of times, with Loudon, great vision, great strength on the ball, but that part of the field's a little more crowded for the club at this point. So I don't know if we're going to see as much first team action for him.
And what about Kevin Paredes? Obviously, he's been talked about quite a bit as well. He's seems to have got quite a lot of talent as well.
Yeah, Paredes. I think they see Yao, Paredes, and Naaman as all in the same kind of cohort, and having the talent to make a breakthrough to the MLS level. And he plays even in a more advanced role, and a more 10 or withdrawn, attacker under the striker role, which is always harder also to see the field. But he has a confidence / cockiness, such attitude about him that is good in that position. And I think Sanford's comment was, it's not always seen in the American player. And that's an exciting thing. But, we have to remember that, these guys are real young kids, they're not even into the 19, 20, range yet.
Yeah.
So there'll be a slow integration.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see all three of them. I think Naaman is probably the one I'm most excited to see. I mean, I loved watching Griffin Yao last year, and I hope we get to see him more in competitive games. James, I think you're right. We're probably not going to see any of them in first team matches very much. And if we do, it's probably because they're lighting the world on fire, because we know, Ben's not always willing to throw the young kids in as much. And so if we do see them, I think it's hopefully going to be less because of injuries and more because they're just playing out of their minds, which would be great. We talked about it earlier on the show, though, between Leagues Cup, between several friendlies, Open Cup, and Loudon. I mean, these guys are all going to get tons of playing time this year. I mean, the opportunities to see them play for us will be abound, and hopefully they'll be able to make their way into the first team roster.
Yeah, and Ryan Martin and Loudon's definitely committed to actually, to playing these guys, right? To playing the youth all the time, and getting them the experience they need.
I think that's the key thing about Loudon United, is it's a key development way into these players' careers and get them that much experience, because without that, they're not going to carry on learning in their development. So I'm excited about Griffin Yeo as well. He looks the part. He's got some speed. He's got some confidence as well about him from what I've seen, and hopefully he'll get some good game time this year. But not a homegrown player, but someone who I'm excited to see is Eric Sorga. After seeing his record from Estonia, granted, it's Estonia, possibly not the greatest league in the world. Just going to say that.
The Estonian Messi, I hear.
Yes. But he is scoring for fun out there. And it's good to see that he actually had some game time with DC United in the pre-season.
And scored.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about him. So fingers crossed he makes the breakthrough and gives Kamara a bit of a challenge up top. One last question. This game this weekend, prediction time.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've obviously seen who we've got reffing, which is Nima Sagafi. So not, as we agreed before, as we were talking before the show, he's not the worst ref we could have had. But is there any good refs in MLS? Debatable. Obviously, going off our pre-season form, 3 wins, 2 losses, 1 tie. Take that with a pinch of salt if you wish. How do you think we're going to end up against Colorado Rapids this weekend?
What do you get, John?
Well, I've been in anticipation of our first live show this weekend, kind of playing through my opening line a few times, and the most frequent score I land on is DC United 3, Colorado 1, and so hopefully we'll just will that into fruition, and we'll kick off the year with a bang.
I like that.
I'm going to go close to that. I was going to say DC United 2, Colorado 1, where maybe we get the winner on something that would have been called offside in the Premiership with their line. But because MLS is not using the line, we get home field advantage, we score, we win, and everybody goes home happy on a Saturday late afternoon.
So is this going to be offside by an armpit kind of a scenario?
By an armpit or a toenail or...
Hey, as Gary Neville said, offside is offside.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised you guys have gone with the fact that we're going to concede a goal. After our great defensive record of last season, I'm going 2-0.
All right.
I want Hamid to have carry on his shutout record and keep those clean sheets going and going and going because, man, without him last year, we wouldn't have made the playoffs.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep, there's no doubt. It's great to have him back and have him back permanently.
Yeah, I think that's possibly my top signing of the whole off season.
For sure.
Keeping him permanently. I mean, as good as Gressel is, and as good as Flores is, and as good as having a side back, Hamid is such a rock at the back. He just commands that back line, and granted, he's prone to a few errors with his little eccentric ways, but I wouldn't have him any other way.
Just don't call him Mr. DC. If you have heard the latest...
What?
One of the MLS podcasts, they were interviewing Bill and they called him Mr. DC, and he was none too happy. One, I think he thought it made him sound old. He's like, Ben's Mr. DC. Don't. On the call up with Susanna Collins. And
you kind of understand where he's coming from on that one.
Yeah.
But he is Mr. DC. Yeah. So, thank you guys for coming on to the show. We've come to an end. It's been fantastic having you guys here and taking part. James, any last words? Anything you want to say to the listeners?
Nothing else. Vamos United. Excited to be back in season.
And John?
Yeah, thanks for having us on, James, and hopefully we'll talk to some of you guys live on Saturday afternoon after a big win.
And from me, just a few things just to end the show with. You can obviously follow us over on Twitter. That's kind of the main social channel that we use. That is at DC United Kingdom. You can become a DC United Kingdom member. Just head over to dcunitedkingdom.com or dcunitedkingdom.co.uk and click on the membership page. You'll get access to the private Twitter group we've got going on. There's also loads of little things that are going on. So you've got an online store now. So if you want to buy some DC UK merch, click on the shop link. That'll take you over to the new Teespring store, and you can buy hoodies, you can buy t-shirts, there's stickers, there's mugs on there, and you can see everything that is available. And there will be new items added throughout the year, which I can't wait to actually release to you guys. The first limited edition t-shirts will be going on very, very soon, so keep an eye out for that. If you need us over on Facebook or Instagram, if that's your preferred choice, just search DC United Kingdom FC and you'll see us up on there. Just give us a like and a follow. And if your preference is YouTube, these shows are on there. Just click the little subscribe button down the bottom and click the bell to get notifications about when new shows go live. So, thank you to James and John again for being on the show. And until next time, Vamos United.